Good afternoon, Tampa. It's Mayor Jane here again for another segment of our Facebook Live, just trying to keep our community informed. We have another amazing guest with us today who I'll introduce in a few minutes. First, want to go through some of the updates, our case update for Hillsborough County. The total number of positive cases we have is 869. Our number of deaths have increased by 1 since yesterday, 18. Again, I want everyone to not look at that as a number, but 18 individuals who have lives in our community, have family members, and probably have been taken way too soon from our community from this virus. In the state of Florida, 22,511 total positive cases with 596 deaths. As I said yesterday and have said several times, we're starting to get those test results back in bulk, and we're testing a lot more citizens in our community. So that's very positive that the testing parameters have been opened up to really anybody who wants to go and get a test. And so those positive cases are going to increase, and hopefully with the positive increase in the cases does not come an increase in the deaths from it. So we can get people back into isolation quickly, and we can ensure that they survive this virus. So we're all doing our part here in our community in Hillsborough County to flatten that curve. As I have also said, Dr. Lockwood is the one that we talk to about the modeling. Dr. Lockwood from USF, who was on one of our guests early on, and he is very, I would say, positive about the numbers that are coming in, and he feels pretty confident that we are successfully flattening that curve and that we will hit the peak of that curve right around the beginning of May, maybe a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit later, but we're doing a good job by staying at home as much as possible, physical distancing, to flatten that curve and reduce the number of positive cases. So very exciting. I thank you all for that. I know how frustrating it has been, but again, if we take these simple actions now, we should be able to get out from under this a little bit sooner. So with that said, two of the steps that we can all take that are very simple in nature that have proven to reduce the spread of this virus are the physical distancing, staying at least 6 feet from other individuals. The second one is wearing face covering. And so we're going to talk about this tomorrow at the Emergency Policy Group, talked about it on Monday, and we have sent around a draft of an order. Hillsborough County legal team is actually finalizing a draft that everyone from the Emergency Policy Group will be able to see prior to tomorrow. But the overarching goal of this, again, is to get individuals to wear face coverings whenever you're going to come in contact with other individuals. If you're going to the grocery store, you're going to the pharmacy, you're going to the hardware store, or you provide a service that may bring you in close proximity to others, that you're wearing this facial covering so that you can reduce the transmission of this virus. So I don't want people to look at any of these orders as being, very onerous or, very restrictive, because the goal, what we're after here, is to ensure that everyone in our community stays healthy and safe. That's the goal. Police officers and sheriff's deputies are still going to use education and encouragement approach to the safer at home, and if we do pass an order for the facial coverings, they'll still use education and encouragement. And again, using that facial covering when you're in close proximity to others. So some companies out there are making these facial coverings or these masks available for their employees, but they're allowing the employees to choose whether they want to wear them or not. And if there is an order, then they will mandate that they're wearing them when they're dealing with customers. So those are some of the reasons that we're looking at the facial covers order. And we also don't want citizens to wear the N95 masks because we want to make sure we have those supplies for all of our health professionals and those individuals that are on the front lines, treating those with this virus in our healthcare facilities. There are so many groups out there right now that are making these face coverings. And as I've said before, you can go from the elaborate, custom-made face coverings to just using your t-shirt and pulling it up over your nose and mouth when you come in contact with others. Again, the goal is just not to be able to spread that virus throughout our community. Again, one of the most deadly aspects of this virus is the ease with which it's transmitted and the fact that it remains silent in so many individuals, young and healthy people that may have it and will never know they have it, but they can go in and transmit that to individuals that can least afford to have the virus. So all the steps that we are taking with the emergency policy group and all the decisions that I make are in the best interest of our community, trying to keep us all healthy and safe. So I will get off of that soapbox now and then talk about the exciting dance party. My son talked me into doing a video last night, and it was very short, so you're welcome for that, public. It was very, very short, and there wasn't a lot of rhythm involved in it, so you can thank me later. But our dance party is still going on, and that is our relationship with iHeartRadio, and those stations you can tune into are 93.3 FLZ, Mix 100.7, 95.7 The Beat, Roomba 106.5, 98 Rock, and US 103.5. 6 o'clock every evening, get out there. It's Mayor Jane's karaoke and dance party at 6 o'clock. Go outside, wave at your neighbors, and dance like nobody's watching. All right, now it's very exciting Bob, I'm going to expect that you're going to be posting your pictures in your videos this evening, so I'm going to check that. So this is my good friend, Bob Rohrlack, and he is the president and CEO of the Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce. And you do so many wonderful things in our community, and I am honored to work with you, but more importantly, call you my friend.
Absolutely.
And the Chamber's mission is to serve our members and enhance the community by building business success. You have over 30 years experience in the Chamber of Commerce economic development profession, having worked at the local, regional, and state level. And we are blessed to have you here in Tampa, the Tampa Bay area. So thank you for coming on the show this evening.
Glad to be here.
And one of the questions that I want to ask you, we're going to talk about our onetampa.org,
Right.
our relief program where we're helping individuals and we're helping small businesses with mortgage and rent payment and or utilities as well for 1 month. And we're looking at this as sort of a bridge, filling the gap between the availability of the federal and state funding, because we know those two needs, the most basic, food and shelter. And so we want to make sure that we're taking care of what we can for our citizens in these most difficult times, and that is rent and utilities. So how is the Chamber going to help us with this program?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And
Yes.
you do rank as one of the coolest mayors in the country that you're willing to dance on social media.
Yeah, that's scary.
Videos of me dancing would crash it, and you have your dog with you. So thank you for everything you're doing to show us that leadership can be approachable and work with people. Thank you for your leadership in all of this.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
But at the Chamber, we think it's our responsibility to be working in partnership with government. And from the day you were sworn in, you have always looked at us as a partner to work
Yes.
with, and we thank you for that. And as you mentioned with our mission statement, to serve our members and enhance our community. With what we're all dealing with right now, this is a community issue. Yes, it's a global issue, state issue, national issue, but we need to be impacting it locally.
Yes.
So how we can help get communication out to not just our members, but make it available to the entire community on resources available. What are the new ordinances that are coming into play that are for our safety we need to be following, making all that available on our website, tampabaychamber.com, as well as the city website that you have. But partnering with this program to get the word out for people to understand what is available for them and another resource.
Well, excellent, thank you. And talk a little bit about, because you were one of the first people that I called when this virus hit our city. And we've really worked in lockstep since then.
Right.
But talk about what you did to bring all of the other chambers together, and also in the business community. I know specifically with the first and the hardest hit were those service companies, the restaurants, the bars, the hotels, the hospitality in general, which we count on so much in our community.
If you look at the hospitality industry, they got hit first. They were blindsided. They didn't see it coming. The rest of us saw that hit them and knew it was coming. And they're struggling to get by. And we've been pushing hard to tell our members in the community, call your favorite restaurant. Yes. They're probably doing takeout. Call them, support them. Don't have to go every night, but just support them, help them continue to function. They've been there through celebrations we've done and other events we've all wanted to do, help them through this period. So that's been key. You mentioned the other chambers. We were fortunate when this issue started to hit our community. We already had a very, very strong partnership organization with the other chambers, not just in Tampa, Hillsborough County, but also going into Pasco and communicating with chambers in Pinellas and Polk County. And it's just how are we working on issues together? And we meet regularly on a weekly basis talking about what are we hearing, what information do we need to be spreading and getting out to the community as we're all working through this. And that's been this has brought us all closer together to where we may be meeting weekly, but we're all touching base with each other throughout the week on, I've heard this, I've heard that, what's happening with this program. As the federal programs were kicking into play, getting people to understand Congress passed a program in 2 weeks, the value of half the national budget, impacting multiple federal agencies who then had a week to figure out how to implement it, and then got it to the banking institutions and financial institutions. They had a week to get ready for people already lined up at their doors and on their computers waiting to apply. So it's been an incredibly monumental task that's been going into play and continuing to happen. We're starting to hear that some of the money is starting to get to the financial institutions and they're getting it out right away. But this program you're starting here in the city is vitally important to bridge that gap, to help those that may not qualify for what's going on. So this is really hitting a critical resource in the community that may be overlooked if we didn't have this program.
Right, and that, you think about individuals like, Marianne Ferentz, good friend of ours and actually the chair of the chamber this year, talking to her, and she broke up when she was talking to me, and she said 34 years in the restaurant business, and it was the first time that she had to lay off workers. Right. And then you look at those individuals that have lost their jobs, literally having the rug pulled out from under you. And so anything that we can do as a community to relieve that anxiety, that frustration, to bring a sense of calm, to communicate, to lend a helping hand in the application process. I know that you held a meeting, virtual meeting with individuals, and had Steve Bernstein, who was on our show as well, and several others on there talking about this program, because as you said, and I've had 30-some years of working in government, and this is the fastest I've ever seen the federal government move, but it is uncharted waters. Absolutely. And then all of that money coming down into our banking institutions, and then they have to figure that process out. And then that's okay.
Sorry about that.
And then the application process, that's difficult to navigate too. For someone, you have a small business, you're not used to, you just think about having to file your taxes and how difficult that can be.
Right.
And now you're talking about filling out this government application. So there's so much uncertainty out there. So anything that we can do to relieve a burden or help get through a process in some way is wonderful.
And I think that's the key. As we told people through the webinars talking about the federal programs, you've got to have your records ready. Have all your information before you talk to your attorney or a financial institution or CPA. In most cases, people deal directly with their bank. Have that information with you so you can answer the question. So now, as this program that the city's about to start is getting ready, now's the time everybody needs to be gathering, get your lease, get your utility bills together, have that information ready and in front of you so you can move faster.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the reasons that we announced it yesterday with the incredible support from our community. That yesterday was sort of a sports theme, in that we had the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Tampa Bay Rays all donate $100,000 each to the program. And we've had a number of donations since then as well. But we announced it, although it wasn't in effect until Friday for individuals, Tuesday for small businesses. But we launched that website so they can go on and see what documents they have to have so that they can be prepared when they call in, again, to relieve that level of frustration and allow that process to go so much smoother.
Right, and in stressful times like we're in, the number one value somebody can bring to these discussions and the process is patience. And that's the hardest thing to hold on to right now. But it's really what we need to be working in.
Right.
We know this won't last forever. We don't know when. So just, this is our normal, this is what we're working with. How do we continue to function, and how do we support each other in this process? As we talked about the hospitality industry, but on other things, buying local now matters more than ever. How can you support local business just so they can keep things flowing? Everybody's doing things different. Nobody's working full capacity. How do we just keep moving? And that's the strategy that's going to get us all through this.
It really is, and that's sort of the mantra. We have a call, our city staff has a call every morning, 7 days a week at 8 a.m. to talk about, what yesterday looked like and what we plan for today. And one of the continued themes that I provide for our team is to make sure that they're communicating to their group the importance of patience, that everybody needs to bring that extra dose of patience, because you would have the normal interactions you would have with the community may have frustration, a level of frustration, but nothing compared to today.
Right.
So walk into a conversation with a citizen you're trying to help out with the idea that they've just had the rug pulled out from under them, and they may have lost their job, the kids are home from school, all of those. So it really is important. Another thing that you alluded to earlier that I believe needs to be amplified are the incredible working relationships that we have here in our community. And that really allows us to start at a different level from a lot of other communities, because we already have those working relationships. For you to bring all of those varied chambers, and people have no idea how many chambers we have just in Hillsborough County.
Right.
And it really is incredible. Do you have a number of the total chambers that you're dealing with Polk, Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough?
We're up to about 12 that we're working
go.
with, including some business organizations, Tampa Downtown Partnership, West Shore Alliance, because we looked at it and said, we're all in this together.
Right.
And we share members, so it's not a turf issue, it's a how do we succeed together. And the minute we get somebody to understand that and they realize we're all going to succeed together, we start seeing just incremental growth taking place.
And then also, we've said several times, this is uncharted waters. Nobody's ever been through this before. So to have that ability to group think, and everybody can bring their ideas to the table and find those best practices as we move through it. So what is the chamber hearing when they talk with the small businesses right now?
Some of what we've already been talking about. People are nervous, but they're trying to be patient. They're having to adjust their business plan, adjust budgets for the year. They know that. We're starting to talk to people about, have you gotten to the point where you can maintain where you are now? We've all gone through the initial, okay, things are different, how do we adjust? How do we maintain and go forward? So we're working on that. We're also looking at what do we want to be thinking about now for when things do get back to what we're all more used to, normal, and how we can start to proceed and come back to the economy we all hope to see. But people are nervous. Everybody, while they're understanding, it was complicated, it was a heck of a process to file for the federal programs. I really would like to get that check now. We're saying we understand, be patient, keep talking to your financial institution, but support each other in this process. This is a time where we all, while we're trying to keep social distancing and people are working from home, you're not going to your office, we have to keep communication going. So make sure you're talking to your typical vendors, typical customers, businesses you come into contact with, and just make sure everybody's still proceeding and moving on. We talk with you and your team on a regular basis, just knowing what's happening and what's going on and sharing information. We've got to keep functioning as best we can with what's happening. But people are nervous, but they're understanding it's a managed nervousness. And the best way to get through this is to work through this. So let's keep proceeding.
And that's a very important message. When we talked about, being overdue, we had a number of questions about rent coming due and mortgages coming due, and people didn't have the funding for that, and what should they do? And I know that I spoke with the sheriff early on. He got with the chief judge, and there was a moratorium put on evictions. But my advice was have those conversations. You're not the only one that is going through this right now. There's so many people that are going through it, and there's going to be a level of understanding. So just have those conversations that this is what happened, this is the position I'm in right now financially, but I expect to be over that, and can you work with me?
Well, I was talking to one of our members who is in a good place now to manage through this process. One of their largest customers has asked them, can we slow things down on payment? We're going to have to. And they were saying, we're not sure what to do. I said, you got to keep talking. Keep talking about what can be done and how you can do it. Don't see it as adversarial. Everybody's in this situation. And you'll find a way, maybe a slower process or a delayed process, but somehow to keep things flowing and keep the customer relationship going. It's the same thing with neighbors. Check in with your neighbors, make sure they're okay from a distance. But this is not a hunker down and don't look up and make sure people are okay around you. It's be smart, listen to the advice we're being given, and try to proceed as best you can.
Yeah, without a doubt. And try to come up with the best win-win situation that you possibly can. So how do you think that this kind of relief from One Tampa, how do you think that's going to affect the small business community?
Well, this is a small business town, and we're proud of that. That's a business diversity that makes us a great city to work in. So small business is being impacted right up front. So any help is vital help, and that's how we really need to be looking at it. We know the program does have requirements, it does have some criteria and limits on what can be done, but if it's enough to bridge through to the next program that can be available or how they can get assistance. And as they're looking at and applying for this program, like we just said, talk to those who you typically work with, your landlord or or the utility companies and all that, and see what can be done. The communication's key, but having a program like this, it will help the businesses keep going for just as they work through this process, but it does something much more important that's not tangible and can't be measured in the process. It gives hope. And hope that we're going to get through this, not the way I would have predicted my year, not the way I wanted my year, but we'll be here for next year. And that's the key, is just have that hope, grab at the tools you can. We've looked at our budget on ways we can eliminate some expenses but still keep functioning. We're a chamber. Chambers are made to gather and bring people together. We're doing a lot of things virtual. And how do we keep the community coming together through virtual? So this program, I think, will be vital to help people with those expenses, which is the tangible up front, but also that hope so they can focus on other ways to keep their business going because they know this has been taken care of.
Right. Okay. And, unfortunately, we won't be able to help, as you said. Small business really is the backbone of our community. And I know that, it's been a focus of mine. It's been a focus of all of the previous leadership in the city of Tampa, and it will continue to be our focus. So, we're going to help as many businesses as we possibly can, and as many individuals as well. So can you tell us about how the Tampa Bay Chamber can help us with
Sure.
this initiative?
Communication.
There you go.
We will be talking about this at our executive committee and our board meetings, through our COVID-19 resource page, putting contact links so people can go there as they look at other programs and can click through and get to the city and see what's going on and what they need to do. We'll be putting it out through all of our communication avenues that we use, and talking to our members about make sure your customers and clients are aware of this program that they should be looking at. They're in the city limits and what they can do, and just making sure everybody knows it's out there.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the biggest piece. Any other way, as you know, every time we talk, I enter conversations with what can we do to help.
Yes.
That's a standing question that's open to help in any way we can. Ways, as the volume comes in, if we can help with that, we're here to help this program be successful and your administration succeed.
Good. Well, thanks. I certainly do appreciate that. And one of the things, too, that I just thought about, and I don't know if you received a call. I was talking to a reporter this morning, and was going to call you about some of the projects that were going on around the city. We kept the construction projects moving, the larger ones, for a number of reasons. One, they provide thousands of jobs in our community. They have the ability to physically distance from each other. They've instituted, and I believe it's the first I've heard from through, I talk with the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the Bloomberg Harvard Leadership Group that I'm involved with. And I haven't heard any other mayors that or cities that have done this, but our 52 largest projects in the city of Tampa have hired nurses. They take temperatures before individuals are coming on the work site, and then we have hired a medical director, and we have individuals that are going around the city doing just spot checks on all of these locations, unannounced, to make sure that they are following the rules, that they have all of the CDC precautions listed in English and Spanish, and that they have hand washing stations. They have everything that they need to keep those locations safe. Then another reason is that a lot of these projects are coming out of the ground and they're half built, and we're getting ready to go into hurricane season. And so the last thing that we can have is a construction site that becomes a detriment to our community. And you can see a lot of these, they're working literally 7 days a week to try to get these moving. So there may be jobs out there in the construction field that may not be something that you've done in the past, but as you say, we are all getting used to a new world and a new normal right now. So just make sure that you don't narrow your search. If you're looking for work out there, you may be able to find a job in an area that may not have been what you're used to. You may have worked in hospitality, and there may be a job in another field that is available. So we will do our best to make sure that we publicize the availability of jobs out there in our community as well.
And CareerSource Tampa Bay has been a great resource for our area, for people looking for work. A lot of the businesses in the logistics industry, Amazon and Publix and Walmart, distribution, trying to keep the shelves full as we keep emptying them. They're needing more hands on deck. So that's a way some people can find some opportunities. Every week I'm on a Zoom meeting with the Metro Cities chambers around the United States. And some are really struggling. Some are doing well, some are struggling to go through this. And I think it's the leadership we've got going on here that has us being able to maintain and continue to function. We're trying to get information out, and you're getting information out. That's the key. People realizing what's going on and understanding more of what's going on. I also have been on weekly calls with about a dozen chambers in Europe. And they got hit early on and much harder with what's happening. And while none of us like the situation we're in now, we're doing well, as you mentioned in the beginning, on illnesses, people being infected, and while anyone passing from this is one too many, there are some areas that are just having devastation.
Yeah,
and
those are the places to learn the best practices.
Right.
You know, that's we've been lucky here. My years in law enforcement, we would always go down and help those areas that got hit by a hurricane, and you would bring those best practices home and, you know, go in and fine tune your policies and your procedures. And I tell people this is unlike any other emergency because there's no cavalry to come in and help. Everybody is in the same position. But, you know, you mentioned an incredible resource. The career source is just incredible in our community. And the CEO there has just turned that organization around and is doing amazing things.
Yes.
Also, Metropolitan Ministries, Feeding Tampa Bay. I was at a Feeding Tampa Bay event on Saturday at Hillsborough Community College, and I was talking to the CEO, Thomas Mance, and I said, you know, as I looked at the line, seemingly endless line of cars coming in to receive, you know, the gifts of food, produce. I mean, it was incredible what they were supplying. But I commented to him that so many people in that line would have been in the position of volunteering to give that food out if it had been any other circumstances. So we have, you know, food, if there's a need for food, we have that covered in the number of agencies out there that are willing to help. And then also the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay, 211. You can call 211 for anything. All of our nonprofits are listed at 211, so they can get you to any service that you need. If it's counseling, if it's the spring for domestic violence, you know, if you need food, if you need a place to stay, whatever it is, the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay, we're very, very lucky to have them in our community. So there is help out there. Please don't be afraid to ask. Again, this has hit our entire community, and you will find, unfortunately, you will find, you know, that you are not alone, that there are a lot of people that you will be able to talk to get advice from, to lean on. So there is help out there, so don't be afraid to ask.
And if I can do one shameless plug,
Sure.
The Tampa Bay Chamber is hosting a webinar tomorrow, From Surviving to Thriving.
Oh, great.
It's at 11 o'clock. People can go to tampabaychamber.com to register for it. It is limited to how many we can host in the webinar, but it's going to talk about how people can be taking care of their emotional self as they're dealing with the commerce side of this as well. So we encourage people to join in on that.
Good, good. And you know, when you're in stressful situations, just to know that you're not alone and that there are other individuals going through it as well. And you know, you can talk your way through it and get advice, get pointers. You know, again, just somebody to listen is quite often very, very helpful.
I agree.
So we thank you all for listening today. And I am so thankful, Bob, that you are in our community and that you are heading the chamber and that you are just such an asset and such a value to all of the residents.
Well, thank you for your leadership for our city. We all really appreciate what you're doing.
My pleasure. And don't forget about our dance party this evening. And remember, I want to see all of those videos. You need to send pictures to @CityOfTampa or send your videos and pictures to #HappyAtHomeTPA. And I'm quite certain there isn't one person left in our entire community that has not texted Tampa Ready or Tampa Lista to 888-777. But if somehow there's one person out there that hasn't, please do that now. You'll get real-time updates dealing with COVID-19 and other issues in our community. It's Tampa Ready or Tampa Lista to 888-777. And then for small businesses, Tampa Biz, B-I-Z, to 888-777. So we are doing all that we can, again, to flatten that curve, taking those simple steps of the physical distancing, staying at home whenever you can. If you have to go out, that's okay. Remember, you can order your groceries online and go and pick them up. They'll put them in your trunk or the delivery services if possible. Remember to look out for your neighbors, call them and ask if there's anything that they can need or that they need or anything that you can do for them. And remember too that just calling someone and being a voice for them or an ear to listen to what they have to say, because everybody is we're going through this difficulty at different levels, but we're all going through it together. So remember, everybody, stay calm, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay at home. And remember, we want to make kindness more contagious in our community than this awful virus. So thank you all for tuning in, and God bless.